Today on Mina Studio, we're going to look at how to get decent quality videos from your cell phone. Hey everybody, welcome to Mina Studio. My name is Nathan, and back there on the keys is my tech director, Ronald. We all carry around really nice cameras in our pockets these days, but we can't seem to get any decent video out of them. Why not? Well, we can, it just takes a little more work. So today we're going to look at how we can take a video shot on a cell phone without making it look like it was, well, shot on a cell phone. First thing we need to do is to get a camera app with manual controls. This is incredibly important to getting decent quality video out of a cell phone. So for both iOS and Android, the best option currently is an app called Filmic Pro. It's a bit expensive, at least for a cell phone app. It is $15, at least it's $15 for Android. I assume it's the same for iOS. Correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong. And it gives you manual controls of your camera. If you want me to be honest, it's not my favorite app in the world. And if there was a better app option, I would check it out. But as far as I know, there's not a better option than Filmic Pro. And we can use it to control our exposure and focus, which is the most important things, because the camera will constantly try to change the focus and exposure of your image, and that more than anything will make it look unprofessional and like it was shot on a cheap camera. Alright, so now we have the ability to control what this camera does, which is very important. Now we need to control, well, what this camera sees. The most important part of any image is lighting. Doesn't matter if you're shooting on a cell phone or a $20,000 Hasselblad, it's still the most important thing, because you're not actually taking a picture of a person or a dog or a giraffe or whatever you're taking a picture of. You're not actually taking a picture of that thing, you're taking a picture of the light bouncing off of that thing. The light itself is your subject, which means if you have bad light, you will have a bad image, and if you have good light, you will have a good image. I would say 80 to 90% of bad images are simply because the lighting was bad. So the best lighting you can get for a person without spending any money is to go outside on a cloudy day. Clouds are wonderful things in that they turn the sky into a giant softbox. So you get nice, soft light, no harsh shadows, and it is incredibly bright, which is very important when you're using a cheap camera like a cell phone, because cheap cameras tend to struggle the most in low light situations. So one way to remedy bad video on a cell phone is just to have as much light as possible. Of course, that has to be good quality light. And in general, when we're talking about people and taking videos of people, we need soft light. Obviously, this isn't always true depending on what you want to do. If you're making a very dramatic film or something, you would want harsher light, but we're not going to get into all that detail. For now, I'm just going to assume that you want decent, nice, soft light on a person. So if you don't have the ability to go outside on a cloudy day because you don't control the weather, then another option is to get a Softbox kit, which you can get very cheap on Amazon these days. Here's my Softbox kit. I got it for only $60 on Amazon. It's got two soft boxes. Comes with these huge fluorescent bulbs that go inside them. I think each one's like 4,000 lumens or so. And then it has the softbox, and it comes with the stands and everything. You can see here we get some nice soft light, and it does put out a decent amount of light. Not, of course, nearly as much as the sun does, but it puts out a decent amount of light for indoors, and at only $60, it's a great value. I'll have a link to these soft boxes or soft boxes like them in the description below. As you can see from this image, another thing I'm doing is using a tripod. Obviously, you can't always use a tripod depending on what you're filming, but if you can, and if you're filming things like interviews, it's very good to use a tripod. And most cell phone video is not shot with a tripod. It's just people taking pictures of walking around or whatever, and it's almost never on a tripod. So a camera on a tripod is kind of already a distinguisher that this isn't a cell phone, because you don't usually see cell phones on tripods. Of course, there are a lot of other things needed to make a great image, like composition and setting and all of that. I'm not going to go into detail of all that stuff. There are plenty of amazing YouTube videos on things like composition and setting for an image. I just want to go over the basics of what you need to get started. So we've got our camera with manual controls. We've got our decent lighting. We've got our tripod. And the next thing, and one of the very most important things for all video, is the audio. People will put up with bad video if there's good audio, but they won't usually put up with bad audio even though there's good video. Getting decent audio to a cell phone can be tricky. You have a couple options. You can buy a lavalier microphone that you put batteries into that can plug straight into your cell phone to get decent audio. They also make external microphones that specifically plug into a cell phone camera. Honestly, most of them aren't a lot better than just the onboard mic is. The key is to not use the built-in microphone on your cell phone because the audio will be terrible. If you don't have the ability to plug a microphone into your cell phone, then your best option is to record the audio externally. You can use a handheld recorder like this one that I use. This is the Zoom H1. And you would just record the audio onto this recorder and then sync the video and audio up later in whatever video editing app you use. And finally, we need to do a bit of post-processing. Even if you've set the exposure properly and you have good lighting, often you'll still want to do some tweaks and post-processing to the image because the actual sensor on the camera isn't the greatest in the world and just can't do some things. It might just not have the right colors that you want, or maybe the blacks just won't get black enough. And all of that you can do in your video editing app, something even as simple as iMovie. And here we have it all put together. We have our Softbox kit for decent lighting. We have our camera on manual mode with the Filmic Pro app. We have it on a tripod so it won't be moving around. And I have the audio recording with a Zoom H1 handheld recorder. Looks pretty decent in my opinion. Let's hear the difference between the two audio sources. Here is the Zoom H1 handheld recorder. This is a recorder I use for most of my Mina Studio videos. Now let's switch to the built-in microphone on the cell phone. You can see it does not sound nearly as good. It doesn't really sound professional at all. If we switch back to the Zoom H1, you can see it sounds more like a professional video. It is a cheap recorder, so it's not the best audio you could get, but it still is miles ahead of the built-in microphone on the cell phone. Will this look as good as a DSLR or professional video camera? No, it probably won't, because the tiny sensors and the very poor quality glass in the lenses of these cameras just can't get that kind of image quality. But with the right tools and the right setup, it can look pretty decent. In fact, I think it can look good enough that the people in your church might not even know that you shot it on a cell phone in the first place. So there you go. You can use your cell phone to get pretty decent videos. And if you're in a small church and you don't have the budget for any other cameras, that's okay, because this is a pretty good camera in itself, as long as you know what to do with it. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to Mina Studio to see more uses for things that aren't really meant for that, but we use them anyway because we already have them and we don't like spending money and, all that stuff.